It is Wednesday, December 15th, and we are going to do a roll call. Trustee Pika.
Present.
Trustee Ritzika.
Present.
Trustee Dahl.
Present.
Trustee Warren. And Trustee DeRocher is here. Director Whitmer is here, and Assistant to the Director Jackie Davis is here. Also present are lots of people.
Jamie, I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Do we have everybody? Okay.
Paul Callis.
Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to entertain a motion to allow Jill Richardson, who's a trustee, to attend remotely.
Attend and participate, I would say.
Attend and participate remotely.
Thank you. Which, do we need to name which it falls under that as to being allowed?
We know that we do have that in place.
I
Can we
think
put
you
it in
can say
later?
that it's,
For our.
I don't- yes, it qualifies under our established policy.
When do you want to give
I'm
me a
sorry, I
motion
don't have
here?
that.
Did you make the motion? Or
I
did you
didn't.
ask?
I said I'm willing to entertain one.
Okay, I move that we allow trustee Richardson to participate in the meeting by listening and voting remotely per our established policy.
I
I
second
second.
that.
Oh, okay, Rosie.
Okay, so that was,
You can put.
the motion was made by trustee Pika and seconded by trustee Ritzika. And we're gonna do a roll call vote. Trustee Pika,
Aye.
trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
trustee Stoll,
Aye.
and trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. All right, so
So let me, before we go any further, Jill, can you give us a thumbs up that you can hear us at least? Awesome, thank you.
great.
Aye, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
So then absent is trustee Lazan and trustee Warren.
Yes, do we have to state that?
When
They're not present.
at 7
Okay. All right, so we do have some changes to the agenda to make, and that is specifically to remove the closed session number 19 and 20. Are there any other adjustments that we need to speak about?
Yes, I would like to remove the item number E under the consent agenda and put that under, would that be the regular agenda then?
Yes, it'd be item 8C.
Remove,
Regular agenda would be 8C, right?
yes,
I thought I heard B.
and that's the 8C. 8C, that's fixing regular, the ordinance fixing regular meetings. Okay, any other amendments to the agenda?
I'm gonna recommend that the presentation order be changed, that we switch items B and C.
Okay. Good. Everything's all over. All right, wonderful. So can I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All right. That was, motion was made by trustee Stoll and seconded by trustee Pika. Trustee Stoll,
Aye.
trustee Ritzika,
Aye.
trustee Pika,
Aye.
and trustee DeRocher votes aye. The agenda is amended as amended.
Okay, and trustee Lazan is just arrived.
Hello, trustee Lazan.
Hello.
So we did some changes to the agenda, but I'm sure you'll catch on as we go.
Okay.
We took off the closed session, and we also have Jill participating and voting online. Okay. All right, let's move on with our presentations and our audit. So exciting.
Well, good evening, everyone. On behalf of SIC, I'd like to thank the board for inviting us to present the report resulting from the district's audit for your year ended June 30th, 2021. We'll start with the annual financial report. Just past the table of contents is the management discussion and analysis. This is the executive summary of the report where fiscal year 21 is compared to fiscal year 20. The district prepares this and we review it to make sure it's consistent with the financial statements And with the GASB standards, and GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and they set the rules for financial statements for local governments such as the district. Goes for 10 pages, and after those 10 pages, you'll come to regular page number 1, which is on signage letterhead. This is where we've given our opinion on the financial statements. In order for us to give an opinion on the financial statements, we were required to follow those GASB standards, which is what this document needs to look like. And then we also need to follow the auditing standards that come from the AICPA, the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants. Those auditing standards issued by the AICPA tell us the types of procedures we need to perform when we're conducting our audit. Once we follow those 2 sets of standards, we can then give an opinion. We're pleased to present an unmodified opinion. The financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting, free of material misstatement. And as we look at the financials, I'll explain what we mean by modified cash basis of accounting. That opinion goes for 3 pages. And after those 3 pages, you come to the first audited financial statement, which is the statement of net position, modified cash basis. So as a rule for your audited financial statements, revenues are recorded when they're received in the bank. Expenditures are recorded when they're dispersed. And then you just have one exception, which makes it modified cash basis, and that is the early property taxes that you received in June. Sometimes you get a little bit in May, are deferred to this year. So they're set up as a liability because they're funding the fiscal year that you're operating in now. So this global view statement of net position then shows all assets and liabilities under that basis of accounting. Comes down to net position, which is essentially your capital assets less your debt certificates are in net investment in capital assets. And then you've got your equipment and maintenance, some of your special levy funds, working cash fund, and then your unrestricted net position there. This statement, and as we flip to page 5, the statement of activities. These 2 statements you only see in the annual audit. It's required to receive that unmodified opinion. That increase in net position, 3 lines up from the bottom of the page on page 5 of 198,000 is intended to tell you we're economically better off as a result of the year of operations by that dollar amount. Now, what you're more used to seeing is the individual funds that you budget and appropriate for, and those begin on page 6. So here we have essentially have fund financial statements. The largest funds are in their own separate column, which would be your general fund and your special reserve fund. We'll look at those non-major governmental funds in the back of the report. So we don't focus on cash and investments because that has the early tax dollars in there. What you want to focus on is fund balance being the amount in reserves that you had to begin the fiscal year you're operating in now. So if we look down 2 lines up from the bottom of the page, your general fund had fund balance of 876,000, special reserve 187,000. Your non-major funds are all positive, and we'll look at those details in the back of the report. Now, how do we end up with those fund balances at the end of the year? We look to page 8. Shows your revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for the year. Revenues were $2,071,000 in your general operating fund, with expenditures of $1,695,000. So you had an increase for the year of $376,000, going from $500,000 to $876,000. Special reserve had $35,000 in expenditures during the year. As you turn to the page, and we head into the notes to the financial statements, we'll just pause on page 10 for a second. The job of the notes to the financial statements is to give more detail supporting the financial statements we just reviewed. And the first note, the summary of significant accounting policies, tells you all the policies that are in place from an accounting standpoint to formulate those statements that we just reviewed. So we'll page back to page 15, and we'll pause on page 15. Note number 2 on deposits and investments talks about the investment policy of the district, different risks associated with those deposits and how those risks are addressed in the investment policy. 2 paragraphs from the bottom of the page, custodial credit risk is the risk that if any of your financial institutions were to go out of business, would you get your money back? There's two ways to get your money back: FDIC insurance of $250,000 per institution, and then collateral pledged over and above that. So with your deposits at FNBC, they essentially spread your money to various banks within their different charters, and that makes all of your deposits fully collateralized. So you're doing exactly what's required in your investment policy. We'll jump to page 18, just to refresh you on what's left on the debt certificates. There's, as of June 30th, $1,410,000 in principal remaining. You would have just made a payment in December earlier this month, and those mature December of 2029, and then your future payment schedule is at the bottom of the page. Page 22 is information on the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. So this information goes through December 31st, 2020, which is the fiscal year end of IMRF. So this information comes from the actuary. Total pension liability is all the active employees in the plan plus beneficiaries that are receiving pensions. You take the projected benefit payments that are going to be made over the lifespan of those individuals, present value that back to 12/31/20, and I say you do this, it's the actuary at IMRF that does this. If that lower left-hand corner, that liability is $3,660,000. Plan fiduciary net position is just a fancy word for assets at market value. So the district has assets that are managed by IMRF, and your bucket market value is $3,507,000. The difference between the liability and the assets then is what's called the net pension liability of $152,000. If you take the $3,507,000 divided by the pension liability, that's the percent funded that you are, and you're at just under 96% funded, up from 88% at the beginning of the year.
Wow.
So very good year in the markets. The one number that kind of jumps out the page in the middle column, the investment income for the year was $437,000 on $3 million in investments. So well into double-digit rate of return for the year. We turn from there over to page 28. Show you where the rest of the detail is in the report. Page 28 shows that same general fund presentation with a little more detail, both on the revenues and the expenditure side. And it also has the appropriation detail as well. So you can see the estimated revenues were $2,088,000. Actual is $2,071,000. You can see the prior year actual was $1,884,000. The biggest difference was the developer donation dollars we received from the city, $169,000, which actually paid your debt payment during the year on the debt certificate. So that's what it was used for. Therefore, your fund balance went up year over year by about that same amount, a little bit more. Expenditures are down a little bit, which is what we've seen with a lot of libraries during this period. There's not as many programs going on. Salaries have typically been down because libraries haven't been open as much during the pandemic. So this is very typical of what we're seeing with a lot of our library clients. So very healthy fund balance position. If you turn over to page 34, we'll look at the non-major funds. The non-major funds being the building, equipment, and maintenance, the working cash, developer donations with no dollars in it, and then the Albalino's gift fund. And you can see, if you look at the fund balance at the bottom of the page, all have positive fund balance positions. You turn from there, last thing I'll show you is on pages 39 and 40, which is the property tax information, assessed valuations, tax extensions, and then your collections and collection percentages. So if we focus on page 39 in the 2019 column, because that's the year that funded the fiscal year that we audited. You look down at the bottom of the page, you collected 99.84% of what was extended by the county. Obviously, it's your largest revenue stream, so if for some reason you ever got word that some reason your collections were going to be lower, then you would obviously adjust your behavior from an expenditure standpoint. You can see that you've been collecting anywhere from 99 to 100% each and every year over the last 10 years. The 50% in the 2020 year were those early collections for the year and those are funding the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022 that you're operating now. So those are the highlights of the report. Excuse me, in conclusion, the audit went smoothly and on a timely basis. You should always be reminded that your staff are very professional. Sandy and Jackie, very easy to work with, and be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Totally not related to our audit. How many libraries does your firm audit in a year?
Probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 30
Thank you.
districts, and then there's a lot of municipal libraries that go along with city governments as well, or village governments. So quite a few.
I mean, there's from passing the parking lot during daylight hours, so a lot of people are still working from home.
That is true. In fact, while we can go out to clients as our folks are comfortable and the client is comfortable, our office is still not open to guests or clients. And so across our entire footprint, the whole country, Stickage has about 1,000 employees. And we've offered all of our employees to work permanently remote. Correct. So over 55% of our employees have said, yes, that's what we want to do. Doesn't mean you can't come to the office. It just means you don't have a chair that's dedicated to you. It's when you do want to come into the office, it's kind of a hoteling type of arrangement where you make a reservation and you got a place to go. Our offices are all very well equipped technology wise, so it's easy just to plug in to whatever station you work at. So it definitely has provided a lot of flexibility to our folks, especially with all of the different arrangements various families have with childcare and whatnot during the pandemic and kids being at home. And my daughter was just home last week because I had a, I guess you'd say a false positive, but I still quarantined the whole time. Like my first test was positive, but then my second test was negative. So the whole thing has just caused a lot of things, but we've adapted to it. So the second document is the auditor communication. And there's two purposes for this document. One is to communicate our required communications under those auditing standards that we talked about. And then the second is if we had any recommendations for improvement. So I will go through this with you. On page 2 is the beginning of our required communication. There were no new accounting policies except for there was one new GASB standard which was implemented, which effectively postponed certain other standards. It's basically the COVID standard, if you will. The only standard that was postponed that potentially would have an impact on your financial statements is the lease standard. That's now effective for next year. The lease accounting probably will not impact you too much, but that's really the only new standard that's out there that potentially will affect any of our libraries. The bottom of the page, it talks about accounting estimates. When we went through the actuarial information with IRF, those are the actuaries are in the business of estimating things. So we just point that out there. Page 3, we didn't have any difficulties in performing the audit. We did have a couple of adjustments to the financial statements, which I'll point out to you. No disagreements with management. If there were any issues during the audit where we had disagreements or difficulties, you wouldn't be hearing about it tonight. For the first time, we would have contacted you and worked through those. But like I said, things went really smoothly. Turn over to page 5. The first two journal entries there are normal and customary entries related to debt and related to capital assets. We always assist with those. when we gathered the information during our audit procedures. The third entry was a little unique this year. There were a couple checks that were intended to be dispersed in July. They went out in June on a cash basis. They really need to be recorded on your financial statements. We talked through that with Sandy and Jackie. And that's essentially what happened with those checks that cleared in June. And that ultimately is what resulted in our recommendation on page 8. And that is, if you're going to report on a cash basis, then and you have a need to print checks prior to year end and not send it after year end, you're just, it's kind of a slippery slope there, because the practical side of things is, oh, I'm heading out of town, I need to get these checks in the mail, because people need to get paid. They end up clearing before the end of your fiscal year. And that's the only time that the cash basis of accounting becomes a little cumbersome, because on the flip side, and you guys have never done this, you could hold on to bills because let's say we're going to go over budget and not send out checks until July for work that was done. We've never seen any manipulation. And this wasn't a manipulation, it was more just, it's just one of those things that just happens. So nothing earth shattering, just something to keep in mind around fiscal year end.
I'm wondering if we need to move away from the cash basis or modified cash basis.
You know, that's definitely something that the district can consider. I wouldn't do it over 1 year, like over something like this. You'd have to decide that your financial information was going to be that much more beneficial under an accrual model. There's probably, I'd say, the libraries that we work with, you know, probably a little more than half, you know, have their audit done on a modified accrual basis. The audit costs more. There's more, you know, costs associated with getting ready for the audit. So you have to decide whether the cost benefit is there. I don't think just this causes you to change how you're doing things.
Okay.
It's always something that you can consider, but I would not lose too much sleep over it. Yep, and then like I mentioned, that, and in terms of the new GASB standards, the lease standard is the one that we'll just take a look at for any leases that are significant, and copier leases generally are not material to your financials, so that's not going to really impact you at all. So I'm not sure of other leases that you have besides copier leases. The other standards are not, none of the other standards really will apply to the library district. Potentially subscription-based information technology arrangements, if you have any technology contracts that you're paying the contract over time versus paying for all the, you know, the technology at the beginning of the contract, that potentially would apply. That's much more common with a lot of technology in the cloud these days.
Would that also relate to this Microsoft 360, which is subscription type?
It could very well, yes. We would definitely take a look at it when that's here. Yep. Very good question. So those are the highlights of this document. Happy to answer any other questions you may have as well.
Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you so much, Brian,
You're
for
welcome.
your time and for your very wonderful work that you performed do for us.
Well, thank you very much. Enjoy working with you all.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
I don't know if the board usually makes a motion to accept the audit or what you usually do.
We haven't done that in a
Okay.
while, so
That's fine.
I think we're good to go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Have a happy holidays.
Thanks, you too.
You feel better.
I appreciate it.
Okay,
That weird thing was like a cold.
fine.
Take care.
Thank you.
Right. All right, we're gonna move on to the presentation by Paul Callis. Paul, you wanna have a seat over here? Thank you.
You get a hot seat.
Thank you.
You don't mind if I stand, do you?
Not at all. And that would be page
It's actually a separate packet.
Yeah.
You have something there?
Table
Okay.
top. Yep.
I brought some extra copies if anybody need anything, but,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, again, for inviting me. Again, my name is Paul Kalis, and I work at the Vanguard Energy Services. Our office is not closed, we're open, you can come in anytime. We're on Deal Road over here, if you know where the Northern Illinois University facility is there on Deal Road, we're directly next door. You can walk out of their parking lot right into our parking lot. And if you ever want to stop in, you're welcome to do it. We are the manager, the consultant for the Illinois Gas Co-op. You have, okay, you have that page. So the Illinois Gas Cooperative is the primary organization that your library is contracted with for natural gas and electric. And you could read this over. I don't want to go over all the pages unless you want me to answer something specifically, but just a quick overview of the co-op. The co-op was started in the 1980s when the state of Illinois became deregulated on natural gas. So it's basically a school buying co-op. We have libraries and park districts in there also, and a lot of schools. It's primarily headquartered in DuPage County, but the members of this organization go way out west of Rockford, way up north to the Wisconsin state line, and down south, southwestern suburbs of Chicago. So it's pretty large, but most of the members are in the DuPage area here. As an example, you may look at the board officers. If anybody knows, for instance, Colin Wilkie, he works at Warrenville School District 200, for instance, and some other people here you may know as the board officers. So the co-op is designed was designed in the 1980s as a natural gas buying co-op because only in Illinois, the only commodity that was deregulated was natural gas, not electric at the time. So then in the 1990s, when the state of Illinois deregulated electricity, the co-op chose not to change their format on the natural gas, because on natural gas, everybody in the co-op pays the same price for the natural gas every month on your bill. So for instance, you're a relatively small member usage-wise of the co-op, compared to, for instance, large school districts and high school districts and things like that that are very large users. Well, by being a member of the co-op, your buying power is included in that price. So you get the benefit of the low, I think, basically a smaller organization such as yourself or an elementary school district, a small elementary school district gets the benefit of the buying power of the co-op, which is large. So what happened then in the 1990s, the co-op chose to continue having all the members every month pay the same price on their invoice for natural gas. It does vary every month, but everybody in the same month pays the same price, okay? On the electricity, they chose to have us, Vanguard Energy. We're not the co-op, but we're hired by the co-op to do this kind of work, come out and visit and things like that. We do the invoicing on our invoices, and we collect the money, we buy the gas, we collect the money from you, we pay the bills, all that kind of stuff. So on electricity, they asked us to go out and just individually contract for each member individually on their electric. Not everybody does not pay the same on electric, and there's a good reason for that. It's a little bit more complicated than everybody paying the same price because there's different usage volumes, there's different riders, different utility company programs that different members are on. And so it's not as easy as doing the natural gas where everybody pays the same price. So that's the general reason there, that we have a separate agreement for electricity. And then what we do on the electricity, we bid it out to all the providers. That you'll see another sheet there. It's got about 4 providers on there on your electric quotes as of today. And we also, per Sandy's request, we also included a new option, which is 100% green E-certified energy. It's also an option on there. You don't have to choose that, but it'll give you 100% green energy for a relatively low price. You don't have to put solar panels on your roof or put windmills in your backyard or anything. You just hear, they buy the certificates and they bill it to you. It's a relatively low price, although it's not free, but it's a relatively low price. If you want that, you can have it. So that's the way that works. And then you can look at some of the stuff here, but I wanted to just let you know that we have a couple of charts in here I just want to bring to your attention. The first one is on page 6, which shows a natural gas chart. This is storage in the United States. All the natural gas utility companies in the country and all the interstate pipelines that connect into the utility companies, they all have storage along their routes. If you're a pipeline, or in our area, Nicor Gas, we have geological formation caves in central Illinois that Nicor Gas pumps natural gas in there during the summer months and then pulls it out of there during the winter months when many times flow would be restricted on the pipelines coming into the Nicor system. They'll have gas locally that they can tap into to serve all their customers. And so what we're at right now, if you just look at that chart, we're kind of in the 5-year average as far as storage in the whole United States being full. So we're not full, we're not empty, we're right in the middle of the 5-year average, we're good. So that chart there generally indicates where the price is, because if we're below capacity, there may not be enough gas in storage for the winter months, so people get nervous, and there'll be a premium, a higher price for the natural gas we might have to buy in January, February, whatever. So right now we're okay. We're okay. The other thing then on electricity, if you just look at page 8, is the price of electricity. Now, the first chart I showed you with natural gas, that's not price, that's product. That's how much gas is in storage. The next one here on electricity is price. And you can see we're in a very high price territory right now, as we are for natural gas. Very high. So what's happened here, and you can look at some of our market commentary here. Let's see, it's on page, I think, 3. Page 4, market discussion. So basically what's happened here is the price of natural gas. Well, let me just back up 1 second, just 1 minute. I'll tell you the concept of what I would refer to as the energy complex. It starts with oil. Everybody in the world pays the same price for a barrel of oil. So say right now it's about $70 a barrel. In China, you're paying $70 a barrel. United States, $70 a barrel. South America, everybody's paying about $70 per barrel. Okay. So when the companies drill, companies like Shell or ExxonMobil, they drill for oil, they get methane. It's in the same hole, same drill without. You almost always get methane, which what we call natural gas. So out of the same pipe, drilling for oil, you get methane in almost all cases. So that methane, we call natural gas, then it's shipped on the oil goes to a refinery, has to be turned into jet fuel or gasoline or heating oil or whatever. The methane is processed, cleaned up a little bit, takes the moisture out, and then it pumps down the pipelines that come into Nicor Gas and all the other utilities. So the price of oil drives the price of natural gas, and the price of natural gas drives the price of electricity. Because, at least in the United States, over 40% of the electricity now in the United States is generated by burning natural gas. You know, just 15 years ago, it was almost 100% was generated by burning coal or nuclear, or using nuclear power. So there is nuclear power, there's some wind energy, there's some solar, but most of the natural gas, not most, but approaching 50% of the electricity in the United States currently is generated by burning natural gas. So as the price of oil goes up, the price of natural gas goes up, the price of electricity goes up or down. You know, so it starts with oil, natural gas, and that turns into pricing for electricity. So these things are all related. They're all separate, obviously separate, but they are somewhat related. So if you see that again, when I refer to this pricing chart on electricity, it's very high. And the price of natural gas is high. So we've been in a 10-year trough of low price natural gas, low price oil. And that has to do with hydraulic fracturing or fracking. So if you think back as an example, to, before, say, the year, say 2015, before that, whatever, say early 2000s or whatever, the price we were paying for electricity was 8 cents per kilowatt hour. The price of gasoline at the gas station was much higher than it is now. Everything on the energy, the price of oil, everything was higher. For 10 years, we've been in a low price territory. And that's because of this fracking. So hydraulic fracturing has caused tremendous amount of more gas and oil being produced in the United States. And then so what's happened over the last 10 years, there's developed very low prices. I mean, we've been for natural gas, we've been in a range of about 30 cents per therm or below, maybe some months higher, but more or less about 30 cents per therm. And that's been going on for 10 years. But before that, it was 40, 50, 60, 80 cents. If you remember back, you think about it, that's what it was. And we came in with fracking. And so now this hydraulic fracturing has caused a tremendous oversupply of oil and gas in the United States. And so these companies that have been drilling, now you'll recognize some names of the big players are, Shell and ExxonMobil, companies like that, worldwide companies. They have not done so much fracking. They've been doing it, but the fracking has been done primarily by smaller companies. The biggest one, the biggest producer, which is now bankrupt, was Chesapeake Energy. You may have heard of them, Tulsa, Oklahoma City area. They're out of business. They've been selling this gas and oil, mainly they weren't really drilling for oil, they were drilling for gas. They were selling it and getting income, but the income they were getting was less than what it cost to drill. They were giving the stuff away just to keep the production going. So banks said, oh, this is a booming company as an example. I'm just using them as one example. Banks loaned the money, they kept getting new loans, they kept building new wells, they kept producing, oversupply, but not making a profit. They went bankrupt finally. So what's happened here is the banks, it didn't happen with this coronavirus, but it's in the same time frame that helped to cause these bankruptcies. There's certainly less and less lending, and these public companies, they have shareholders, and the shareholders are tired of making no profits. The stock price might go up or down or whatever, but they're really not making any dividends. And so the shareholders of most of these companies have just said, listen, you can't keep selling this stuff and making a profit. The shareholders are putting pressure on these companies. The banks are putting pressure for no more lending. And so many of these companies are going out of business. I would say in round numbers, 50% of the companies 3 years ago that were drilling for natural gas and oil in the United States are not in business anymore. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but it's a dramatic number. Bigger companies have bought up some of these, but they haven't bought up everybody. And so there's less production now currently for oil and gas in the United States. So that's causing a decrease in supply, but it's, generally the demand is the same generally. Now there's dips and, peaks in temperature and the commerce, and the economy is booming or it's not booming, and there's peaks and valleys, but generally the demand is the same, but there's less product. Price has gone up. So we're more or less double the price of natural gas and electric that we were just even a year ago or 2 years ago. But that's not the whole story. The rest of the story is that's for this year. And, this winter, getting into March, April. Beyond that, there's some value. There are some, there's lower price, they're not low, but they're lower prices a little farther out if you want to go. So that's another way to look. In other words, the future prices have not caught up yet with the current market price, which is extremely high. And if you look at this chart here, you can see, for instance, the blue line here is 2022. We're in this, that's for next year, super high. Then the two other colors here on this chart, 2023 and 2024, they're actually the same. They're blended together, but they're kind of that maroon gray. They're the same price basically for 2023 and 2024. Now, your electric contract is on a Contract version is energy only. So what you're buying is the energy. And you have other components in there that are not ComEd charges, but there are other electric service charges. For instance, there's losses. That means when they transmit the power over these big power lines, but by the time it leaves the generator, by the time it gets to the ComEd territory, it loses some. These are not ComEd charges before it gets to ComEd. So there's a losses charge. There is capacity. That's the biggest one on your bill. And all these, they're all tariffs. They're not negotiable. They're not market-based. Only the price of the energy is market-based. That's just charger. It's the price of the energy. So all those other ones you have, and I strongly recommend this is the best contract for you to be on. The tariff items, losses, capacity, transmission, ancillary fees, those fees are all charged to you on a monthly basis as a pass-through, at cost, pass-through on your current direct energy bill. So I recommend you continue doing that. It's the best one because, as an example, if you look at page 9, the price of capacity here is going down more or less half price so if you look here, the far right, it says 2022, 2023. So the electric year starts on June 1st every year. So this year here, highlighted here, or the last one on the list, starts on June 1st, 2022, goes to May 31st the following year. You can say it's $169 per megawatt hour, and right now we're at 193. It's $69 versus 193. So it's less than half, and you're going to see that on your bills. When you start getting your July bill next year or something like that, it's going to show a lower capacity rate without you doing anything. It's just the tariff is going down. Okay, I think this is I know this is an anomaly. I think it's a mistake, not a mistake, but I don't think this was calculated right by the people who've been on this. And the bid people who've been on this are the producers, the people who generate electricity, like in our area, nuclear, Exelon Corporation, generating electricity in the ComEd territory. The reason for this, without getting too technical, the state of Illinois and another state, Ohio, have done this. They've changed the way consumers, people like us, our house, or your district, pays for the power that's generated in their state. So the state of Illinois, Governor Rauner did it first, and Governor Pritzker did it again. There's 2 line items in every electric bill. You'll see whether you buy your power from ComEd or you buy it from Direct Energy or another supplier. There's 2 line items that got to do with basically keeping the nuclear generating plants in Illinois open, because Exelon Corporation said, if we don't get paid for this, we're closing. We're not going to have this nuclear generation in Illinois. And the state legislature and the governors signed on this twice. So there's 2 line items in there. And I think that calculation that they did when they came with these quotes to come out with these capacity numbers, I think I don't know, I don't use the word miscalculated, but I don't think they had the right numbers or whatever. So that number is probably going to go back up, but for the next year, it's very low. So those are the 2 highlights. I just want to bring to your attention natural gas. And I don't know if you got a copy of the bill, but we do have a natural gas bill in there. I could just current one. And I also included a copy of the current direct energy electric bill. So the other thing that Sandy asked me to talk about was market conditions. I think Sandy, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned people just reading things in the newspaper, seeing things on TV, or any kind of general information of what's going on with energy prices worldwide. Well, I gave you some background there. Europe, for instance, just real quickly, you hear a lot of news about Europe and Russia pushing gas into Europe, Northern Europe. All of Europe is not one market. They have different countries, they do things a little different, but nonetheless, basically what's happened there, it happens all the time, but it's happened this year. They did not get enough gas in stores, like we just talked about storage here in the United States and natural gas. Europe, for whatever reason, political or I don't know what, did not put a whole lot of gas in storage this summer. So now they're entering the winter, and they got, give or take, maybe 25% less storage than they really should have, based on history. So we'll see. So this kind of newer pipeline that just kind of got approved in the last month or so, coming from Russia to Northern Europe, a lot of gas coming from Russia into Northern Europe. That should alleviate some of it, but it's not it's still not the answer. Even separate of any political issues, it's not that much gas. It's a good quantity of gas, but it's not like going to double the quantity of gas or anything like that. It's maybe 5 or 10% or something like that to back up. So we'll see what happens, but the main thing worldwide here, there's less production and it's just as cold as it's going to be. Now, right now it's warm. What is it, 60 degrees today? Something, you know, it's almost Christmas. And this is an anomaly, but I'll give you another story. If, I don't know, Sandy, you get our weekly energy brief here. This comes out every Thursday, but I'll just read this. This is right. You know, we come out with this newsletter every week. Our company sends it out to anybody who wants it. You guys can have it. I can send it to anybody on the board. You just give me your email address, but Sandy gets it. I'll just read this. It's just short. After multiple weeks of big drops in the gas price, big drops, natural gas prices have been relatively stable. The 8 to 14-day weather forecast that extends to the last week of the month of December continue to show above normal temperatures for much of the country. Why have temperatures been so warm for much of the nation? High pressure has kept the polar jet stream far further north than normal for this time of the year, which has meant warm weather for much of the United States, while those in Alaska have experienced quite the opposite. Alaska has been frigid with temperatures for November 3 degrees below normal in Fairbanks, and December started colder. Those living on the plains of Canada are facing temperatures that look more like January or February, and safety warnings have been issued this week about exposure to cold. So what's happened is polar dome, it's referred to many times as a polar vortex. It's possible that's going to come down into the central part of the United States. But you can see it's already in Alaska and it's in parts of northern Canada. So if that pressure breaks, if that dome and it drops down into the central part of the United States, it will be extremely cold. It will be colder than normal. And that's what the traders, the people who trade this natural gas and stuff, they're looking at. As soon as I'm sure of it, I can't say I'm sure of it, but probably as soon as some major cold happens, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, anything, I don't know when it'll happen, but if there's some major cold snap, in our office, we think the price of natural gas is just going to go soaring. Soaring. That's how we think. I don't know. Nobody can predict the future, but so we're prepared. The co-op is prepared extremely well, I think, to react to that. If you look on page 5, it shows your current fiscal year, July 2021 to June of 2022. The IGC board has booked 88%, which includes 90% of winter, of expected usage fixed at 33 cents per therm. Okay, so we're expecting cold. We know it's going to be cold in January and February. No matter how cold it is, we know it's going to be cold. So we've got that booked for about 33 cents. Now, what happens is maybe you're going to use more than expected. Maybe the whole co-op as a group was going to use more than expected usage. Well, the expected usage, we already got 90% booked. So say we go, maybe the usage turns out to be 110% or something like that. Well, we have to buy that extra gas somewhere, or we have to buy it on the index. So that's going to be higher. So that invoice you may get for January usage or February usage, perhaps, might be higher, because we might have to buy some 75-cent gas or 65-cent. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But you'll get the gas. It's just that the price may be over 33 cents, but we're booking for 90% of the winter at 33 cents. The next fiscal year, 32 cents. We're down to 30 cents, 32 cents again, and now we're going all the way out to June of 2026. I don't know. We got some triggers out there if they can get it. They're trying to get some gas in the low 30 cents per therm range. If the market cooperates and it's available, that'll be booked. And we'll get some gas all the way up to June of 2026 at some low price. A low price doesn't present itself, then they won't buy it. So they're just waiting, get a long time. We think markets will probably go down one time or another. So that's where we're at. So that's an overview. And then it's specifically, this particular presentation is to talk about your electric pricing. You're currently with direct energy. So if you got this sheet here, which is this graph that shows all the electric price. So what we did, we bid this out today. These are prices as of today. And prices change every day, by the way. So you look down at the very bottom, your current agreement, it shows you with direct energy. And the first column on the left says fixed energy price, ATC means around the clock. So you're currently paying an awesome price, 2.9 cents or so. We'll call it three pennies, 3 pennies per kilowatt hour. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, look at that other chart, you know, we're up at, let's see what this chart shows here. It's a lot. Currently, you know, we're in the 5 cent range. 4 to 5 cents, 4 to 5 cents per kilowatt hour for the energy, and you're at 3. Okay, so that low price is going away. Okay. So then we bid this out, and all these different companies, so Direct Energy, your current supplier, along with Constellation Energy, Dynegy Energy, SFE Energy, those are the ones that offer the green certified energy. So these are the ones, we have other suppliers, but some of them don't offer this, that green energy.
Which
And-
ones were those?
Well, the names are all on the left, the supplier names, the Constellation, Direct, Dynegy, and SFE. You see those? Okay, those are the suppliers that responded to this bid request. Okay, so the best option, the lowest price option, if you look on the bottom, far right, in yellow, I've highlighted, it came up the same price. Constellation Energy and Direct Energy at 0.04498. Okay, that includes the green energy, which is the second to last column on the right. So basically, you can see this, the green energy costs you about 0.4 of a penny extra. To me, that's pretty reasonable, but I don't want to speak for you. I'm just saying, I think that's pretty reasonable to get 100% green energy, about 0.4 of a penny. So I'd say I would recommend you consider either one of those two. Like probably, I would say you might want to stay with your current supplier if you have a good, you know, working relationship with them. Direct Energy, they're a fine company, or you can choose Constellation Energy, again another fine company. You know, Constellation is owned by Exxon. You know, they own Combat. You know, this is a big organization, so they're all good companies. Everybody on this list is a good company, but nonetheless, those are the two lowest price options, but that's a 5-year contract. That goes out for 5 years. So you may not want to go out that far. It's up to you. But it is the lowest price on the board. But you got all these options here. You can pick any one of them if you like. And you got until May of 2022. Your current agreement ends in May of 2022. If you sign an agreement tomorrow, it would not start tomorrow. It won't start till your meter reading in May of 2022. So that's the way that works.
So can we just back up?
Sure.
Are you recommending a 6-month?
Yeah, because it's the lowest price, but I'm just highlighting the lowest price, and I'm recommending you consider that because it is the lowest price, but you don't have to go that route. You-
There's no projections about what the prices are going to do in the future.
We know this far, you know, this is what the charts are. This is where we're at. We don't know what's going to happen after that. A lot, I think, is going to be determined by the next 3 months, January, February, March. We'll see. If it's cold, it'll get high. Now, does that mean it's going to be high for all of 2022? I don't know. But the next 3 months are definitely going to show something. Definitely going to show something. And again, you don't have to make any move here. You've got until at least April, say, to make a move. It's your fault.
But if we wait until then, we might not have as low prices.
Right, we don't know. Right, I just don't know.
There's 3 bad months. April could be much higher than what you're showing. in this
It's
chart.
possible. I think it's April is a shoulder month, which means there's not much cooling demand, you know, air conditioning demand. There's not much heating demand, but you don't know. There could be a war open up somewhere in the middle. I just don't know. Nobody can tell you, but what I'm saying generally, this is, well, specifically, these are the lowest price on the board. At a 4-cent price of energy, it's not bad. It's not as low as you've been paying. But let's look back, hold on, so your current agreement was signed on February 26, 2018. We go back to this chart here, you know, you were not at the bottom of the market right here, but you were close to it. Here's the bottom. It happened in the summer of 2019, and you signed in February 2018. So again, very low, but it did bottom out a little more, just shortly, and then it went back up. But so you're in great shape currently, you know. So the way I would see it is use that as maybe, you know, you had extra money maybe in the bank because you didn't have to spend 4 cents per kilowatt hour for that power in that period of time in this contract that lasted 4 years. Yeah, it's a 4-year contract. So this is a backwards market right now. That's the other thing just to keep in mind. Usually, these are future, you know, we're buying this stuff on the New York Mercantile Exchange, NYMEX. So usually the closer in contracts are less expensive than the farther out time. We go out 2-3 years, it's usually higher price farther out, usually. This is a backwards market. You see it right here on the sheet. That the farther out things you go is because, well, they're lower. I think it's because people are waiting to see what happens, maybe this winter, maybe next calendar year. We're going to see what this market turns into. We don't know what's going to happen, and it's possible it'll go down. But I think people are waiting, and I think they're itching to raise prices on everything. We're not talking about raising prices here because this is a traded commodity. These are people that are trading, buying, selling contracts. You're not selling something at Walmart, but I think that there's a real good chance. I don't know what the percentage will be. I think there's a real good chance that prices starting this winter will be higher even more. But again, I don't know.
Well, I feel like we should probably do something that's a little more middle of the road. If you look at the 36-month listing for direct energy.
Yeah.
The difference isn't that great. And that is 2 years less of being locked in at that price, especially if prices go down.
Right. So if you look at the 1-year deal, see the 1-year prices are all, you know, if you look at the energy, the first column, the energy, you know, 4 4s, there's one at 5.2, say, and compared to the 60-month, the 5-year deal at 4.0. So round numbers, a 1-year deal is give or take maybe a half of a penny per kilowatt hour higher. The 3 years is only like maybe 1/10 of a penny per kilowatt hour.
Right.
So that would be a decent compromise. I would agree.
What is everybody else thinking?
I would tend to be on the lines of the 3-year as opposed to the 5-year.
Yeah, I feel like if we lock ourselves into a 5-year agreement, we might really be kicking ourselves
Sure.
because things could go down. You really don't know. I mean, all I've heard for the last 6 months is that energy is just going to go through the roof, but I don't know how long that's going to last. So
Yeah, nobody does. That's what I say. I think the general feeling that we get in our office is that people are waiting. I mean, traders are waiting to see what happens this winter. And if it stays warm, if for example stays warm, prices might collapse, go down to 30 cents per ton for gas versus, you know, 60 cents per ton currently, 50 cents per ton currently. So they may collapse, but I think that's probably unlikely, but you never know. You never know. So yeah, that'd be something you guys can kick it around, but yeah, I think that would be a very reasonable option. And the other thing I'd maybe ask you to consider is maybe staying with direct energy as long as you have a good working relationship, but other companies are in that same price range. But direct energy is a good company. I know they're fighting to keep your business.
They look like they're consistently lower than, or at least in most instances.
Yes.
So is that because they've got sharper pencils or what?
Yes and no. You're correct. These people could charge, they have the raw wholesale price, and then they have to add on something for them to stay in business. And you're right, some people are more interested in volume and making a little profit for whatever reason. And some people need the cash for every invoice, because they're gonna give us cash, Every company has their own way of doing business, I don't know. But yeah, but they are consistently, I would say the two that are consistently our best suppliers are Constellation Energy and Direct Energy. They have probably most of our customers' business, those companies. Not all, certainly not all, but they have combined, those two have a very large percentage of our customers. And it's based on price. It's not like we have a better relationship with one or the other. It's just usually they know we can bring business to them. They like to keep it going. In this case, you're with them already. They don't want to lose them.
Well, if they're efficient, then they're going to be cheaper anyway.
Generally, you would think, yes.
What happens with storage? Are they building storage? Or are they? in
Well, you
building
mean
storage?
electric storage?
Well.
Or we talked earlier about natural gas
So
storage.
we're talking natural gas and.
Well, this is electricity.
That's electricity, right? But I think that they're one and the same. As far as you can substitute, not totally one for one, but you can swap out natural gas for electric for certain things. Depends on which direction they want to go, whether or not you're going to have electric heat in your office, home, school, whatever, as opposed to natural gas. So
Let me just
how
clarify
elastic are
something.
these?
Natural gas does have storage and has a pipeline system
Right,
and holes in the ground, caves, and above ground tanks that hold the natural gas. It's a
right.
physical commodity. Okay. And those are, and I've said, it's really a physical commodity. It's not a financial transaction. It's real stuff, real inventory. Electricity is extremely limited storage. You have to put it into a battery,
Mhm.
like you have on your cell phone, your automobile. That almost does not exist.
Mhm.
If somebody's going to have storage of electricity, for instance, solar, and the solar, the sun shining, you turn on your lights, everything's working. But at nighttime, if you have solar, and you're not going to get solar usage at nighttime, it's just not going to happen. So maybe you put it in the storage, in a battery. Okay, that's fine. But that doesn't exist. I mean, it exists in a very small scale, very small scale. So it may happen one day, but I would anticipate at least a decade.
So they don't melt salt and turn that into steam and turbines when.
That would be a possibility. I don't know about that technology. I do know that there are some ocean front areas like Tampa, Florida, for instance, that they try to take the salt out of seawater and make fresh water out of it.
Right.
Now, exactly how that works, how much electricity it takes to do that, I don't know.
It's a very inefficient process.
Inefficient. Okay, there you go. Another thing, just you're talking about general facts. Is electricity has become, and natural gas has been more lower price in the last 10 years or so. More and more people around the world want electricity. They don't, some places don't have electricity. They want electricity. They want air conditioning. And they don't have it in many parts of the state of Southern Hemisphere. They don't have it. They want it. So I think there's going to be I think, from everything I've heard and read, there's going to be somewhere along the line some kind of a consumer demand for this stuff. So that means companies are going to go in there. They're going to build generators. They're going to, if somebody wants them, somebody's going to find a way to sell them something. And they're going to do that. They're going to put up wires. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think somebody's going to produce electricity for countries and people who don't have it right now or don't have a lot of it. And that power's got to come from somewhere. They're going to have to burn something. I don't know what they're going to burn.
Now, we had some.
Wood, coal, I don't know.
We had some frisky Russians here in the last couple of months here that shut down some pipelines, and how does that get factored in?
Well,
So
that,
we've
that's,
got,
we've talked about that in northern Europe. Is that what you're referring to? Russian gas coming into northern Europe?
we had our gasoline pipeline shut down by Russians this past summer.
Oh, you mean the Colonial Pipeline?
Yeah,
Yeah, the hackers or whatever.
well, yeah, but that's state sponsored,
Okay, well,
but
I really feel like we need to shift this.
well, I think that we ought to go with the longer term, because when the poo hits the propeller, then we want to be on the safe side of this thing. And if it means we pay a cent or two more for that security, then that's a good deal.
Because you feel like the prices are only gonna go up.
Oh, I think inflation's going to hit like a hammer. And I'm not so sure that the Russians are going to back down at all. So I think that we'd be much better off locking in for a long term.
Long term, while it's available at a
Right, it's
relatively low
available
price,
at
but
a-
not a spiking price or whatever. I know, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Other thoughts? Sandy, where you landing?
I mean, electric is only gonna go up. All our utilities are going to go up. I mean, there's not that much price difference between a 60-year and a 36. I mean, 6 months. So, it's, here or there. I mean, I'm looking at more, I'm looking at some of these grants for energy efficiency.
Yeah.
To be looking more at that so we can in the future lower our usage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something we do have to look into because it's only gonna go up. So
So it'd be better if we had a longer term. That's what you're thinking.
to me, it really doesn't matter. 3 years or 5 years,
Well, it
either
does
way.
matter if you think they're only gonna go up, because that means that we would be locked in at a price that's gonna be less than if it keeps going up.
Yeah,
So it
but
doesn't
5
matter.
years is a long time too.
It's a long time.
Right, but you're also having a lot more people with electric cars.
Yeah, and they're
It's
gonna
a
be,
gamble of what's gonna be going
they're
on.
gonna be charging them at home and whatnot.
Yeah, so there will be more of a demand for electric.
All right, Cindy, what are your
I would
thoughts?
say 3 years, 5 years is too long. It depends on, like he said, temperatures, the weather, the polar vortex. We're having spring into summer right now. We don't know what he said it could get bad in the winter months. We don't know what that's gonna bring. I read January could be very mild. February could get hit hard. So I would lock in at 3, not 5.
Okay, what are you thinking?
Well, I agree. I think I'd rather do 3 just because it's, I think 1 and 2 is definitely too short and it, if we see it go up, there's nothing that we're gonna do. I agree it's gonna go up. But
Well, if it's gonna go up, then we should go with
the longer
the
term.
longer term.
Well, the only thing that bothers me, so how come we don't have a quote from Direct Energy for a 5-year? They just weren't willing to commit.
Well, yeah, that's 5 years, that's a 60 months.
Oh, Direct-
60 months is a
Direct's about
5-year,
that.
right, right.
Okay, and
Down at
that
the
one's
bottom,
the
right.
same as Constellation.
Yeah.
They're the only 2, by the way, that went out 5 years. See, this other one, they don't want to go out that far. This is the way their business model, I can't,
Right.
whatever, everybody's got their own spin on it.
Well, in that sense, I, looking at the demand, I mean, maybe 5 years is the smart way to go instead of 3. How long was our current contract?
Right.
It was 4.
It was
It was
4?
4 years and it ends in May of 2022,
Okay.
with your meter reading in May of 2022.
Jill,
By
do
the
you
way,
have
you
any
use
thoughts?
about 286,000 kilowatt hours annually. Now you go out long term, what we always want to make sure is your facility going to stay the same? Are you adding, subtracting parts or another building or anything? I mean, can you see out 5 years, everything's going to be pretty much the same?
Pretty status quo. for
Okay,
that.
okay, that's fine, yeah. Because you don't want to get ahead of yourself, if something's changing.
Jill, did you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think I would tend to lean with Sandy and Rick on that. I don't think it's going to go down. I'd like to see us, if it's going to keep going up, I'd like to see us work on our usage, work on more renewable sources. And I know that's not a 5-year plan, but I don't see it getting better either.
Do you have any idea what our savings was over the course of our contract, just kind of a ballpark estimate?
No, I don't have that. I will say as an example, if you look down at the very bottom of this agreement, now here's your current invoice of direct energy. These numbers, if you see that number, it says the third one from the right, this total energy charge is 0.07181.
Okay.
So that's all in. So that's including your capacity, transmission, all that. Okay, compared, for instance, to ComEd right now is about 7.8. You're at about 7.1, but that's I only analyzed 1 month of bill.
Right.
I haven't done a 4-year analysis. or anything
Right,
like that.
okay.
It's only your most current invoice.
Sandy, do you have any thoughts?
I don't. I'm normally a shorter term person. I'm never sure what the future is gonna hold.
That's the way I feel.
But in this case, I think the prices on the 3-year versus the 5-year are very close. We can't predict the future. We don't know what's gonna be, but I don't know that it'll ever get back down low to what it is now. And you may save, maybe the price does come down in years 4 and 5, but the amount that you may be saving in those first 3 years are the buffer that makes the entire term less. So I'm okay with either 3 or 5 year. I did want to say, one thing that when Paul and I were discussing this, one thing that really surprised me was how low the cost is for that 100% green energy. And what that means in terms of the expense that we would pay to, for instance, add solar panels to the roof and a battery system. While it would be great to have that as an option, especially for backup when we have a weather emergency. But I don't know how long it would take us to get to that expense if we're paying for that renewable energy just as part of our contract. At that point, it wouldn't make sense. I don't think.
Right, this is
For
very
us to
reasonable, I think.
So,
Yeah, Sandy, I will say that you're talking pretty much with backup power and all that. That's an
That's
engineering
different.
thing. It's not a price thing. So there's two
Right.
other things you kind of got to look at that. But I've been in buildings where the power went out and fax machines, telephones were running. I go, how did that happen? He goes, oh, we got a backup battery. Really? Okay, that's cool.
right.
So,
There's
it does-
generator systems, but then if
Yeah.
there's a solar system with batteries.
yeah, of course, there's the
But
natural
yeah.
gas backup systems too,
True.
Generac
Yeah,
as an example, natural gas or solar, either one. But yeah, you could do that separately, but the renewable energy, if you're actually talking about green energy,
right.
it's relatively inexpensive. And I will mention one other thing, I think, Sandy, I think you mentioned it as far as energy efficiency. So we do have some other information in here, and I just want to highlight that real quickly. That
Yeah, we
if,
need to move on.
you gotta move on, but if you're gonna do anything if you talk about solar, or anything else, we can help you with that. If you're gonna do heating and cooling system or something, anything you need. But all this stuff is rebateable. You can get a rebate on any kind of equipment you buy, lighting retrofit, insulation, windows, all sorts of stuff. So just remember that, and we give you the information here. Just if it's an electric product, you contact ComEd because they give you the money. And if it's a natural gas product, you contact Microgas. I can help you with that, direct you to their website that will get your stuff. Just remember, if you're gonna buy any equipment, whatever it is that has anything to do with energy, if you want a rebate, you have to apply for the rebate before you order the equipment, before you sign a purchase order, before you do anything, you have to apply. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you for telling us that,
yeah.
that's helpful.
Absolutely. And, we are a member, our company is a member of the Illinois Library Association. We're dealing with a lot of libraries all the time. We're very active. And, so if you need anything like related to that organization, I assume you're a member, that we can help you there too. We do stuff with other libraries.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we have this later on our agenda to actually decide which way we're gonna go.
Yeah.
So I think we have all the information that we need. Thank you so much, Paul.
my pleasure.
I
And
appreciate
if
it.
anybody has any questions or anybody wants to get on our email list, just Sandy, if you can just maybe send me anybody's, you get the email,
I do.
the newsletter. Comes out every Thursday, and you can just add anybody you'd like to it. Thanks again.
Great. Thanks all.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
And I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow.
No problem. I'm available. Thanks again.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Now, we would like to shift to a little celebratory moment and really appreciate and give our thanks to Cynthia Kowski for all of her wonderful work here over the years. I remember when we hired you to begin with, we didn't have anybody doing anything. Well, not in an official capacity. And you've just done such fabulous work here, Cynthia. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if I may, I would like to acknowledge Sandy's daily leadership and her vision for the library and all of her efforts over the years. And I would really like to thank everyone on the board for your service, for your dedication to the library and its staff and its role in the community. And I really feel that you have been a large part in making Warrenville the place that it is to live and work and raise my children. And it's been a privilege.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you.
Good luck in your future endeavors. We wish
Thank
you all
you.
success.
Yeah, good luck.
If I could pick up the library and all of you and take you with me to a warmer climate, I would.
What part of Florida?
The Orlando area.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sandy will call when she's there.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Her home away from home.
I'll be checking in on her.
And I would also like to say that I had the opportunity to see the contrast in the services, the library services that are available where I'm going, and that really made me appreciate what our library has done in giving our members access to materials and just basic things like the faxing and the scanning that just make life so much easier. And so what the library's done to just reduce barriers to our public is just incredible.
Well, we have you in part to thank for that, really, Cynthia. I mean, you've really kind of led the charge for getting accessibility for technology for the people who are members here. So we are appreciative of that, really, truly we are. And it's been an important role, an important aspect of the library to have technology be available to the public at large.
Right.
Cindy, did you have?
I do, but I don't want to take up too much time, but I feel like Cynthia's been here for almost 13 years. So
Wow.
I'm going to take a little time to, I've prepared words. It's a little scary. Do you mind? Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
So
This
we
only
should
happened
honor-
once, so.
take our
yes,
moment
it's
to honor
important.
Cynthia.
And this will remind, I don't know how many of you have been here the entire time, some of you have, been here the entire time Cynthia's been here. I know some of our staff don't know some of this, what Cynthia really walked into when she was hired,
We were so desperate.
and what her original position was.
We were so desperate.
Yes, so when I arrived at Warrenville in 2006, the library was relying on a very part-time, unscheduled employee. Think 2 to 3 hours a week, and this person would drop in like on his lunch hour or at midnight to just tweak a few things, okay? So that person was maintaining all of our computer systems at the time. He did work with a couple of our managers and an outside consultant to keep things running. So things were good, things were working, probably not ideal though. But then we worked our way through a couple of part-timers who were still here sporadically, but the position really wasn't a good fit for either of them. Now, during that time, Cynthia had applied for a position and I didn't hire her. So nix on me, that wasn't a good decision. But in the spring of 2009, she applied for a part-time, I look back, it was actually supposed to be temporary, position of computer lab assistant. So her job was really to kind of help people maybe at the computers, refill the paper in the copiers, clean the screens. It was definitely a limited position. But after she started working for us, so this was like in the spring of 2009, but after she started working for us, it was really quick for us to see that her knowledge and experience, her talents went far beyond the scope of that position.
Yes, sir.
She was very quick to learn the various systems, beyond what her actual job description was. She offered suggestions for how we might improve things, and she always found something productive to do, even when the days were slow. So one of my favorite memories of Cynthia, she had a part-time job at a retail establishment that shall not be named. But she told me the phrase there was, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. And that, Cynthia, in a way, she wasn't necessarily cleaning, but she was always looking for something productive to do. So by October, so within about 6 months, her schedule increased from 13 hours a week to 30 hours a week. And much to the relief of our circulation and adult services managers, who had been acting as basically de facto IT managers, Cynthia was promoted to full-time computer systems administrator shortly thereafter. So as those of us who work with her know, Cynthia is a master at project management. Not only does she understand the technology, but she is a master at project management. She has a keen ability to lay out all the pieces of a project. She takes a project and she breaks it down, and then she crafts a plan of attack, delegates where it's necessary, and follows through on every single project to completion. She has the unusual ability as a techie to explain things to a person with little or no technical knowledge. She brings it down to the level of whoever she's speaking with. Let's see, over her years here, she's always made herself available to work on other duties as assigned, which actually included responding to alarm calls in the middle of the night. Thank you for that. She took the time to understand the role of technology in every aspect of every department here, and has been a really important member of our management team. She's also a professional when it comes to managing a budget. She's always aware and strives for ways to maximize the library's financial investments in technology. And above all, as you even heard her say tonight, she is always focused on providing outstanding customer service, whether it's to internal customers like us or external customers who walk through our front door. And she has never, ever forgotten that our goal is to provide services that are relevant and important to our community. So if there's anything about Cynthia that just rises to the top, that is it. That is always her focus. The projects that she and her team have worked on and completed are obviously too numerous to list, and a lot of them are taken for granted. She does things that we just never even know. We never have to worry about it. But here are a few highlights. I just picked and chose a few things. Cynthia was part of the team that brought us downloadable audiobooks in the early days, and then eventually tested and trained people on the various ebook platforms that we're using. She initiated, it's crazy, we've been doing it for a long time now. She initiated one-on-one training with our patrons. That was one of her first things. She did server virtualization. You can ask her about it sometime if you see her, and moved some of our services to the cloud, which freed up some of our equipment costs and some energy use here in our building. Basically made things, I don't know if it's really simpler, but it's there. It's one of those things where she's maximized space and resources. Many computer upgrades, including reconfiguration of desks and workspaces. You know me, how I like to try new things. Well, Cynthia had to be there to move, like when we combined desks, all the computers had to be moved and rewired and things. She's managed a couple of different upgrades to our internet connections, which has been really important. I think if we went back and saw what our internet bandwidth was when Cynthia got here, maybe we could send an email, I don't know.
We did have problems with emails for a long time.
Yeah, and we did have issues with bandwidth, things were very slow. Self-checks came in while Cynthia was here, we added the mobile device collection, the iPads in the youth services department, the scanning and faxing station, new computer management and printing solutions for our public computers, a new phone system. And then I come to 2017, which was our renovation.
I have to say that room, when we did a walkthrough, everything was still in construction mode, but we saw
The server room,
Cynthia had made, it was a work of art. It was beautiful. I was like, look at all these cords all wrapped up in perfect little rows. Like,
cabling,
I'm
yes.
just kind of responding because at my house, none of our cords look that way.
So Cynthia, I'm gonna give you a framed photograph of your servers. That'll be my gift to you.
Beautiful. It was just
It is
beautiful.
true, it is true. But remember during that renovation, we had 3 moves. And in every one of those moves, computers, data lines, power had to be moved. And Cynthia also was a big part of the planning process to figure out where we were gonna put things and where we needed all those connections. But my favorite part of the renovation was when we were all the staff were working in this room. And that took some creativity on her part to get things working there. So, and some patience, I think, for the rest of us, but it was all good. But over in the shorter term here, over the past 2 years, Cynthia, of course, pivoted, my favorite word, many times to ensure that we can continue to serve our patrons during the pandemic. She quickly managed the rollout of laptops and network access for many of our staff so we could safely work from home. She also kept a close eye on the changing landscape of the CDC recommendations and led discussions about how we could provide services while keeping our staff and patrons healthy and safe. So those are just a few things, tip of the iceberg of what Cynthia has contributed to Warrenville Library. So I said on behalf of myself, I thank all of the staff and our community. Thank you, Cynthia, for all of your contributions and for leaving your positive mark on our library. You definitely left us in a better space than we were when you started. So much appreciated.
Very welcome.
Yes, I'm going to give Cynthia a copy of that so that. 3
I
months
can
from
give her a
now,
copy of
she's
it.
gonna sit down and read that and say, boy, I did all this."
She can show it to your kids. You can edit it. I'll email it to you. You can edit it. You can add and subtract. But thank you. Anybody else have anything to add?
Thank you.
Staff have anything? We're all good. We're gonna have a little celebration with staff in early January. So,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
You will be missed, Cynthia.
Yep.
It's been an amazing journey.
Will she be here in January still?
Just for the first week. The
First
last
week.
day is January 7th.
January
And I will say, as I was thinking back on this, one of the funny things, I think at the time, the computer systems administrator was a new position, and I had to bring that position description to the board to get it approved. And at the time, one of our trustees, Bob Johnston, said, when he read the description, he said, well, so basically you need somebody who can walk on water. And I said, yeah, that's basically what we need. So we found her, multi-talented. So, but thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
All right. I'm done.
Okay,
Sorry, thanks for allowing me.
all right. And do you have any public comments? Oh, our public's all done. Okay. Correspondence, none? No. Okay. We need to move to the consent agenda, Madam Secretary.
Certainly. Item A, approved minutes of the November 17th, 2021 Truth and Taxation Public Hearing. Item number B, approved minutes of the November 17th, 2021 regular board meeting. Item number C, receive and file financial report for November. Item number D, certified statement of economic interest list and authorized submission of information to DuPage County. Item number E, adopt resolution.
wait,
No, we moved to eight
No, we
C
didn't.
regular
We
agenda.
moved it to- So that's why it's item number. E.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, we switched, so
We
we
just
switched
moved
it.
it all up. Got it.
Item number E, adopt resolution R-222, resolution transferring funds to the special reserve fund. Item number F, adopt resolution R-223, resolution confirming library district participation in Illinois libraries present, joint purchasing of library programming, events, and services.
That was item G and then item F.
I move we accept the consent agenda as modified.
Second.
All right, and so we will do a roll call vote. Trustee Pika?
Aye.
Trustee Lazan?
Aye.
Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika?
Aye.
Trustee Stoll?
Aye.
Trustee Richardson?
Aye.
Trustee DeRocher votes aye, motion carries. All right, now moving on to the regular agenda. Can I have a motion to approve our payments?
So moved.
I think it has to be read. doesn't it?
Oh.
Yes, I move that we pay invoices in the amount of $49,416.74 for the period of November 18th, 2021 through December 15th, 2021, including electronic payments and checks numbers 8548 through 8594, checks number 8580, 8589, and 8591 are voided.
I second.
All right, that was, the motion was made by trustee Stoll and seconded by trustee Ritzika. Let's start with trustee Ritzika. We're voting.
Aye.
Good. Trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
And trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries. Moving on to the transfer of funds.
I move to transfer $175,000 from commercial checking account to operating checking.
Thank
Oh,
you.
second.
Thank you, trustee Warren. Motion was made by trustee Ritzika and seconded by trustee Warren. Again, we have a roll call vote. Trustee Pika.
Aye.
Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee Ritzika.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Trustee Lazan.
Aye.
And trustee DeRocher votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay,
All right, now we move to item 8C. We did have a amendment to the agenda, Sandy. And so we're moving the consent agenda, item E, to as item 8C, adopt ordinance number 21-2204, the ordinance fixing regular meetings. And that was requested by trustee Stoll.
I move that we adopt ordinance number 21-22-04, ordinance fixing regular meetings for 2022.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion was made by trustee Stoll and seconded by trustee Warren, and now discussion.
Okay, the question that I had is whether or not the meeting in December was too close to Christmas and whether or not that should be moved to a little bit earlier. Since that is like 3 days before Christmas.
And that for some of us, that is a holiday. That's the solstice.
That is winter solstice.
So is there a problem to change it to the week before, to the second week?
It's up to you. There may be some financial ramifications, but we won't know that until closer to that date, in terms of bills that are due. So delayed payment of the bills may be an issue, but
They're only bills. They'll send them.
So what you're saying is if we don't improve them, they'd have to wait till the January meeting.
correct, you'd have to take action to authorize the treasurer to approve the bills and that you would ratify those payments in January.
Instead of approving prior. Okay.
All right, is that what you're requesting, is to do it the week before?
Well, either the week, I just didn't know whether even doing it, say, on Monday earlier, or whether, just, I was just bringing it up just for the This year, we've been lucky, you could say that we were able to hold it the week before Christmas. And just knowing next year, whether they're, whether it's because of winter solstice, whether it's because people might be going out of town, it might be harder to get a quorum, I guess.
Okay,
agree.
does anyone have a preference based on the Monday before or the week before?
I think we should go the week before, the Wednesday, the week before.
I'd
It's
be
no
for
different
keeping
than
some
tonight.
things constant, so
So
I'd be
keeping it
willing
on
to
a
move it
Wednesday.
1 week up.
I do have a concern though about some invoices in the end of the year, billing. I really do. So we'd have to remember
Right.
that we have to authorize whoever's the treasurer, I think that's still Sandy, that she can go ahead and approve them.
And then the board would ratify those bills in the following year.
For exactly the reason
can-
why.
I believe that the last 2 years, we've actually canceled the December meeting, and that was the procedure. Was in November, you authorized those payments.
So it still could be canceled even if we move it.
It could be, yeah.
Possibly.
Well, I'm always
Or you
good
could
for
choose right-
simplifying matters and canceling things.
Well, I think we have to have one on the calendar in case we need
Right,
to meet.
yeah, I think, and then we can decide in November if it's necessary.
I would suggest leaving something on this
Yes.
calendar.
Moving
And
it
then-
earlier makes it so that there might be less opportunity for bad weather to influence the thing.
Because I believe too, if for some reason we leave it off the list of meetings, the problem is that you have the extra expense of publishing if we do decide to have it
Okay,
in the newspaper.
so we usually decide that the month before?
Yeah, the meeting
Yes.
before.
I'm-
We know,
I'm
but-
just very like fuzzy on it, so
Yeah, we
I
would-
know we have done it.
We
Okay,
would know that there's no business coming up. This year, for instance, we did not cancel because
we had moved it.
the auditor had to be moved, yeah.
And then, of
Okay.
course, the energy.
Okay, all right, so I am, I don't think we have to make a motion on this, do we? We just,
It's already on the floor.
It's already on the floor. We have a motion to approve it as is. So,
I can withdraw it.
based on the discussion, you might want to amend your motion to approve it with the change of the December meeting to December 14th.
Okay, I would like to amend my motion for the ordinance number 21-22-04. Ordinance fixing regular meetings for 2022 with the amendment for the December meeting being December 14th instead of December 21st of 2022.
And I'll say,
all right. We have to do a roll call?
Yeah.
All right, trustee Luzon. Aye. Trustee Richardson.
Aye.
Good. Trustee Warren.
aye,
Trustee Francina.
Aye.
Trustee Stoll.
Aye.
Trustee Pika. Aye. And trustee Derosha votes aye. Motion carries. All right, unfinished business. We need to decide about the electricity supply. And we definitely have some people in the 5-year camp and some people in the 3-year camp. I could really go either way.
I could go either way.
I
as
can
well.
too.
Don't we need a motion first before we start discussing?
No,
I move that we consider electricity supply contract factors and authorize staff to execute contract.
Second. Is that a motion?
That's where we're at. Is that what you had written?
I think the motion would be would include the recommendations of the term and
Well, let's see if we can get some consensus. We'll just amend the
Okay.
motion.
okay.
Did we have a second?
yes.
That was you? Yeah. That was.
Jake, you got that.
Okay. All right, so, I'm kind of in favor of doing the long-term one if we think that things are just gonna go up. So. Where's everybody else at?
I've not seen anything go down. And we bought what our current number is at a historic low. And whether or not that was directly related to the recession that was going on at the time, or it was some kind of, I don't know where to go. But it was, that was a topsy-turvy couple of years, but So I think that the only reason that we don't have more bids for a 5-year program is that they think it's going up, but they just don't know how much.
I think you're probably right. Bob.
And they don't want to lock into a lower rate.
Right, okay. All right, anybody, really want to give it the old, 1-2 for a 3-year contract? No,
Three.
it sounds like we're in,
I'm going 3. We don't know the future.
Well,
that is
it's a
true,
gamble we have to consider.
that is true. But that's really what you're probably,
That's what I'm basing on, yes.
okay.
Well, the only other thing I could say is that we went with, did he say 3 or 4 years?
4 years.
4, and we bought at a historic low, and had we bought with 5, we still would have had 1 more year. So at this point, I feel like we're getting in at the lowest it's gonna be, because it's gonna be, it looks like with what he's predicting, that it's even gonna go higher before our contract expires. And if we can lock in a lower rate now, I think we're better off. I think
Okay, do we need further discussion?
Well, I would say that since the gentleman who did the presentation is probably more knowledgeable than I am, and he did recommend the longest term contract, I would tend to take his advice and go with that.
Okay, is someone willing to amend the,
yes, I'll amend my motion that, okay, I'm trying to remember how to admit, so,
I think it might be best to withdraw your motion,
oh, okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
and then Sandy, you're.
I
okay
was
to
on my
withdraw?
second.
Okay. And then we start over with a new motion.
So I authorize,
yep, I'm good.
No,
I move that we authorize staff to execute a electric supply contract for 5-year term. And, I'm sorry,
do we need to say which vendor?
I guess not, because they're the same.
I don't think so.
Just checking.
Well, we're with Direct Energy right now, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And
It's
he
a good thing to
recommended this.
continue.
Okay,
Stay with
if you
them.
want it to do with direct energy, that's fine. We can specify that.
okay, so then authorize staff to execute electricity supply contract with Direct Energy for 5 years.
Inclusive of,
Inclusive of,
100% clean energy, I would say.
with inclusive of 100% green E certified energy.
Good job.
Is someone willing to second that?
Second.
Okay. So we're gonna do a voice vote so that you have, or not voice vote, a roll call vote, so you have the opportunity to vote whichever way you want to go. Okay.
It's okay.
All right, trustee Pika,
Aye.
trustee Lazan,
Aye.
trustee Warren,
Aye.
trustee Richardson,
Aye.
trustee Ratika,
Aye.
trustee Stoll,
Aye.
and trustee Droser votes aye. Motion carries.
Great.
So it's a lot to consider, and I'm glad we got that done. Okay, moving on to there is no new business, so we are moving on to the director's report. Anything want to?
I think you can read through this on your own. I did want to mention, I left 2 things at your places that were not included in my report. One is a note from both myself and Paul, that we have the first 3 authors lined up for the Illinois Presents program, so you can see what the dates are going to be for that.
Oh,
I also wanted to mention that the intention is to offer this, I think we talked about this last month, but just reminding everybody. Our intention is to offer an in-library viewing of these virtual programs, so like this, in this room, perhaps, as well as the option for people to register and review it, watch it from their own homes with their own devices. One of the things, though, is that there is a conflict with the February program. It's the same night as our board meeting. So Paul and I have to work out how we're going to manage that, whether we split this room. I'm also considering the computer lab as an optional space, whether it's for the board meeting or the program, depending on how many people attend to view here at the library.
Can we just go into the staff room? Like, whoop,
We don't have the capacity to do this AV
okay.
production.
And then we don't have the ability to do it downstairs like we did a few times.
I don't think so.
Will they, you said you're gonna do it, since we'll miss it, will it be on the YouTube channel after the presentation?
That I don't know. It's up to each of these contracts have different options.
So it's like some of the other ones.
Mhm. Unless you decide, we can revisit this in January, if you want to cancel the February board meeting. So you can watch this, that's up to you guys.
Alright,
But
okay.
just so that's aware, and then the blue sheet is an article from the Chicago Tribune. As you've probably heard, there's been a lot of information in the news about school libraries and books that are being challenged as to whether they're appropriate to be included in school libraries for students to have access to them. And this article was written by, actually, she's a former president of the Illinois Library Association, very knowledgeable about libraries, has been a school librarian herself. And I just thought it was a great introduction for people who aren't really aware of all the things that school librarians do. And it addresses a lot of, I would say, the other side of the discussion surrounding these collections. This was in the Tribune, I believe on December 3rd. So it's just kind of a thing that's out there that you should be aware of. Paul actually had a conversation with one of our members who asked whether we had the book and where it was. We don't have the book, and how do we address it if someone requested through Swan? And our collection development policy is really very clear that parents are, in a public library, parents are responsible for monitoring what their children are checking out and reading. That's really not something that we get involved in. But there is a process if someone wants to challenge a book that we own, where it's at in our collection. There's definitely a process that is followed to make that happen. So I think our collection development policy is really pretty clear, gives us good guidance. If you ever want to review that, that policy is on our website. So just something to be aware of, and a really great article.
Thank you.
That's it, unless somebody has a question.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What does Smart Procure do? I noticed they had a FOIA request for.
So Smart Procure sends us a FOIA request every quarter, and they ask for all of our purchasing records.
Okay.
For the quarter, they are a for-profit company that uploads that data to a database so that companies who want to do business with government entities can search the database and see who their potential future clients are.
Okay. I was curious. So no repercussions. It's just for
No,
them to do their business.
yeah, just a little bit of extra work for Jackie.
In the Swan monthly fireside chat, is there actually a little fire one?
No.
It's just a little cozy chat.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
It started at the beginning of the pandemic, and
Mhm.
they thought that was a good way to do it, and it's just continued.
It's
The
a
first
little
summer
cozy.
they called it a poolside chat. We're
Oh.
all online, like,
I like
Oh.
that idea.
so I suppose I could go and watch it.
That's
like, next to
cute.
the
So like
fireplace
a
here.
January blizzard chatter.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I see.
It's just, it's a nice, I appreciate that they've continued it.
Mhm.
It wasn't in place before the pandemic, but it's a nice monthly update on
It does
What's
look.
quite a
going
few
on.
things that are happening with SWAN. It's good, I think.
Mhm.
One more meeting to attend or watch, but they record it, so we don't watch it live, we can view it at our convenience.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Sandy, what do you attribute the rather dramatic decrease in the visitor count for November versus October? And over 5,000 in October and less than 4,000. That's a big difference. And it's not the holidays, if the weather has not been exceedingly bad. I was just curious. If you had looked at it.
I have no idea.
Okay,
I'll just hit that.
this was curious.
I didn't even notice that.
One of those mysteries.
Let's see if it can change.
And these counts are extremely low in my mind. Pre-pandemic, We were usually averaging
7.
yeah, 7, 8, 9, 10 even. So,
It just hit me because it
Yeah.
was such a pronounced difference all of a sudden. It wasn't just like 400 or 500.
I had a
yeah,
question
but I don't have a reason for that.
on the statistics. My wife liked the hold election so that she could just come in and grab and go and take her book with her without having to spend a whole lot of dwell time in the library, and felt a little bit glad about that, but she didn't know if that was something that was separate.
It is different. So I think what she's referring to is what we call curbside pickups.
That's okay, so that's what she was.
Yeah, so
Whether
that
she
is.
came in and picked it up off of the,
That's
Off of
curbside
the,
pickup.
yes, that's curbside pickup, and that is still available.
Ah.
I think she can call,
Mhm.
she called
It is.
member services to request books. If she doesn't know what she wants, she calls adult services,
Exactly.
and they can recommend things. But
oh,
if she has,
no, she ordered stuff,
Oh.
place it on hold and then they pick it
Put it in
off
the
the
bag.
shelf and
Yeah.
put it.
so when she Jamie, tell me what happened. I don't want to say it wrong.
When her, when she receives her hold notification that items are ready for pickup, at that point, people can call member services. We'll go ahead and check them out to your account, bag them, and then we'll put them on our curbside table right inside.
But if she comes in to pick them off of the
Right on the shelf.
the self-serve thing, is that considered grab and go, or is that considered a real visit?
So I think when we were still using grab and go terminology, after reopening the library, when we were still at limited hours, that was considered grab and go. We were considering, people were limited to an hour. So we recommended, come in, grab your items you need, but this isn't an area for like hanging out in the community right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like grab and go is kind of, that terminology has faded a little bit, but yeah, it could mean like, picking up your holds from the shelf, grabbing a few items, but not kind of lingering and staying longer.
It's also been, because it was outside of the people counter, they weren't actually coming to the library, so it wasn't actually even being counted, coming in through the door, because they weren't going through the.
They were coming to it.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. I just thought it was the table out there. It wasn't until they came in the second door that they got them.
Yeah, and I think Rick is referring to actually grabbing that, members grabbing things from the shelf.
Off of the shelf,
Yeah, from the whole shelf.
not going into the stacks, but going into the shelf.
Yes,
Okay.
So that counts as a regular visit.
exactly, yeah.
And she didn't know if that ought to be a separate type of thing, but I don't know if you can control the counting on that.
We couldn't count that.
Okay, that's fine. She'll be upset, but she's been upset before, so.
Well, then
She's upset because she wants it counted.
She thought that it'd be something worthwhile, because it's not, she didn't really figure that it was a visit.
Okay.
Because she didn't interact with anybody. or
Everything
go
is worthwhile. Tell her
browsing.
everything is worthwhile when she comes to the library.
There you.
I think the
Thank
key
you, Ed.
question to consider before going down that route is how many people who pick up a hold off that shelf do not go into the library for other things.
I don't know if you could,
And there may be other statistics that might show some of that. For instance, if she's just grabbing and checking out at the self-check machine, it doesn't necessarily show in some of Jamie's statistics, there's, a breakdown of who checked out at the desk, who checked out at the self-check. But it would be, we'd have to set up a complex camera-based people counting system to figure out where people are actually traveling in the library. But we're glad she's doing
yeah,
it.
she
She counts as a person,
She
just like,
counts it, I'll tell her that. That'll-
yes, it's important to us. Just like we count people who come in the door, use the bathrooms and go back. They count, that's a visit,
Yeah,
different kind of visit. Or before the pandemic, or come to use our drinking fountains, any of that.
Can we start microchipping people so then we
Yeah.
know exactly where they are
Oh,
in the
let's not
library?
even say that in
Yeah.
any kind of.
It's
official-
I do want to chip for the access to the door though. Because I forget my fob too many times. So if I had a chip that I could program.
You put it
To
in
get
your
to the
forehead, then
door.
you bang your
Yeah.
head against
You
it.
need
Maybe
a
they
little
can do
Star
that
Trek
stuff on the
thing,
cruise
okay.
Something.
Uh,
Okay, good.
All right,
Question.
moving
But we
on.
digress.
Does anybody have any comments about any of the department head reports? I want to say, Paul, I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
it was,
reading this
You did a fabulous job.
cohort recap. It was really such a cool thing. I was so happy that you reported out about it.
Very nicely written too.
Yeah, really happy to read that.
Put a lot of time into it, Paul. Good
Yeah,
job.
shirt and the sweater, I loved it, so I appreciate the work on that.
And I just have to say that Mary Kelly did, on a lighter note, I like this entry, survived a week without assistant to director Jackie. Quite humorous.
She survived a week without you.
You didn't even read it. No, I probably didn't.
And
I thought that was great.
Jamie, I just have to say, I'm just so sad that this new resident project is gonna be on hold,
Yeah, but it-
and that it wasn't successful.
We're still getting in new residents that are fully activating their cards. So at this point, at the time that I wrote this report, we were at 8, we've gotten 2 more. So we're still holding on hope and holding on to the applications that people will continue to kind of trickle in with those, but
I just, if somebody had sent me that, I would have just been jumping up and down.
You don't know what the complex of the new residents is.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't know who these people are, so it may be a generational thing as well.
yeah. But I think definitely this month, just in-person library card applications, we're definitely seeing more of an increase. I know we've already surpassed 20 library card registrations. This month.
And doing what other libraries are doing, mailing a postcard to new residents. If I was a new resident, I would like something like that.
Yeah, so Kathy and I have talked, and Kathy and Sandy and myself and Sandy have talked about other options moving forward, kind of just getting the word out.
It's sort of like a little welcoming to the library.
Exactly.
It's very good.
So that we're still reaching people, but, they're coming to us. And then we've also talked about outreach events and having, more of a register for a library card, whether it's you register right then online for the in-person, also going out to the local new apartment complexes. So we have a lot of ideas.
Okay,
And
good.
we're definitely still getting in, people registering for library cards. Definitely, I've seen a lot from Everton, from the new complex on the corner here. So it is nice to see that. a lot of
Yeah,
people are-
people feel welcome when they get a little card like that. Good idea.
I guess my question on the program, like you mentioned that there were other new library card signups, but you don't know like how people, you could say, heard about it, or if it was, even though they're not activating the cards that you sent them, or that I just didn't know if that was.
So we are, they definitely could be hearing about it through our Reading Matters. So Kathy was actually dropping those off at each of the apartment complexes. And then anybody who moves to an address in Warrenville, they're gonna receive one of those as well. So that's definitely one thing. Otherwise I would think, people that just, they want to know their local library. But definitely, we're getting that information to them.
And I have a question for Jamie that I think before, but now I'm looking at the pretty, I'm calling this like a heat map. Registration activities. Did these numbers also include library card renewals?
So these numbers did not.
Okay, they did not.
Because when we were still doing that renewal process, that was a separate one.
Okay,
So these are just our total registration.
new registration.
New registration.
Okay.
And here's your Jeopardy question, 70%.
Yeah, of self-check.
Yeah, what is self-check number for? I do have two questions, maybe not appropriate, but whoever's got me before. What's the plan for a new graphic designer?
We do not have a plan. at
We're
this point.
developing one.
Kathy is working on that, yes.
And then how with Cynthia going and Duncan moving, how does that affect Diane's role? Will she continue in her position?
Diane was only temporary to
That's
help
what I
get some
couldn't
projects
remember.
completed, so Diane's last day is actually December 26th.
So we'd like to thank her too for
Yes.
her hard work.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Paul, I just had a question, or I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback. I attended a program on Zoom last night from the library. It was Leslie Wolf doing something about how celebration holidays.
Yes,
Was that a presentation here that was also Zoom?
it was. So it was live in person and it was also broadcasted.
I just have to say that the audio on it was terrible.
Was it bad?
It was awful, and I really had such a hard time following it that I exited out after about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be aware of that. I thought his presentation was okay, but really the audio was not good.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's why
They'll have to safely use the microphone or not. Or if you even, because I know if you do something like that podium. But I wasn't sure if they would like to use it.
Okay,
Because we have had that issue before.
well, you just might want to follow.
If you want to use the microphone.
Okay. All right, where are we? We are at the president's report, and that is our next meeting. Thank you. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 19th. And be aware that the library is going to be closed some days around the holidays. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day. All right.
Yay.
Treasurer's report.
I just want to make sure people know about the ILA legislative meetup.
Oh, okay.
And it's taking place on Monday, January 24th from 10 to 11 in the morning. If you would like to participate, just let me know and I will sign you up and you will get a link via your trustee email address.
That is, okay.
Thank you.
Anybody interested? Legislative meetup? January 24th, 2011.
Yeah, I like that.
Rick?
I like that.
What's that?
Yep.
You will represent, awesome.
Super.
Okay, now treasurer, do you have anything to tell us?
No, everything looks good. The auditor gave us a nice fine report,
That's right.
so it all looks really, really good. And we passed.
Yay.
All right, secretary, anything to say?
Well, everything's great. Thanks, Jackie, for making me look good. And also, thanks again to the staff for their Christmas tree. I enjoyed walking around and seeing very nice, as well as the other community trees that participated, so. awesome
Did they
job.
announce the winner yet?
I
Yeah,
believe it was pink,
pink.
but I voted for the library.
Yeah, I did.
But I could, but I should. Oh, yeah, I did.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Otherwise I would have voted.
I didn't know they had a vote.
I didn't know
On
either.
Facebook. I
Yeah,
think it was,
I voted the library
Okay,
because I really thought it was good,
Mm.
really good.
good thing we're on the trustee comments now.
Notice how seamlessly. we moved.
That's right, let's move right into it.
Yeah, no committee reports, right?
No, I don't think so. We didn't have any committee activity this month. Okay. Any other items for information, discussion? No, all right, we're on our final item. Who wants to do it?
I move that we move out.
I second that.
And so motion by trustee Warren and seconded by trustee Rizika, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's at 8:38.
Yes, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well,
Thank
yeah,
you.
8:38 over there. We have to follow that, but that's really not